It's that time, San Diego.
Oh, what time is it? Time to kick it.
Time for Gwen and Chris to help you close out your day.
Guess I've been working so hard, I forgot what it's like to be hardly working.
Time for you to forget about who stole your lunch at work.
This is it. This is it. Right here, right now.
Time for you to lock in on sports. Featuring Tony Gwynn Jr.
I'm waiting for a girl like you.
I will never know what song that is. You singing it.
Foreigner.
Yeah,
it's a great one.
But you didn't make it sound anything like that.
And Chris Ello.
This is a conversation you simply do not belong in.
Gwen and Chris are on the air on 97.3 The Fan.
Hey, what is happening, San Diego? It is 3 o'clock Eastern Time. 12 o'clock on the West Coast in San Diego, America's finest city. And the coach, John Quintero, is on vacation this week. So Gwen and Chris stepping into the afternoon slot here, noon to 3 today. We'll be talking sports with you for the next 3 hours. I'm Chris Ello from the Home Lone Ranger studio, along with our sidekick here, Matt Scraby. And, of course, Tony Gwynn Jr. coming to us live from Petco Park and getting set to call this afternoon's game between the Padres and the Cincinnati Reds, which starts at 4:10 in Ohio. And, Tony, how did you handle the early wake-up call today? I mean, I know it's noon, but for a lot of people who don't understand, we don't usually get up till around noon. We kind of lounge around.
Wait.
Oh, you guys don't? You guys get up earlier than that?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't
much
realize.
earlier
That's
than
right.
that.
Somebody has 4 kids on the show, so he's definitely up earlier than noon. But
To be honest, it kind of throws a wrench into the whole day that's planned around a 3 to 7 show.
yes, a little different, right?
It's a little different, but we make it work. We'll make it work. Stepping in, Coach probably needs a week. He probably needs more than a week because it feels like he's in work all the time. So
Yeah.
I hope he's enjoying his vacation. But Chris and I are sliding into the afternoon session, and I want to thank you all, the afternoon listeners, for tuning in to Gwen and Chris today. Padres, Reds, they get back in action today. And I don't know, Chris. This is the Reds, although got their butts whooped here, they've been playing some pretty good baseball aside from playing San Diego.
Yeah, you take away those 4 games, and the Reds have played very good baseball the last few weeks. In fact, they're over 500. They're 39-38. And if you look at the Cincinnati Reds offense that Blake Snell is going to be facing tonight, only one team in the National League has scored more runs than the Cincinnati Reds this year, and that team is the Dodgers, who have scored 399 runs. The Reds and the Giants are tied for second with 384 runs scored. So Cincinnati's got a big-time offense. They got a ballpark that's hitter-friendly. And they're going up against a pitcher who has not done well away from the friendly confines of Petco Park. I think that's been well documented. In fact, Blake Snell himself documented it on our show last week, Tony. He said, my numbers on the road make me want to throw up. 10.36 ERA. I mean, that is obviously unsightly. He's 0-3. Here's the thing that really, there's a few things that stand out about how much he struggled on the road. 28 innings. He's allowed 40 hits. He's walked almost as many as he has innings pitched, 24 walks and 28 2/3 innings. But I go back to that 28. 28 innings in 8 starts means that on the road, Blake Snell is averaging less than 4 innings per start. Averaging less than 4 innings per start on the road. So he has been pitching poorly and not getting at all deep into games. So he's got to find an answer to that. And even if he does find an answer to that today, he's got a very tough lineup he's going against because, as I said, the Reds can hit.
Yeah, no, they can hit. Nick Castellanos is having an incredible year, along with Jesse Winker as well. He's having an incredible year. And that offense, as you said, it's rolling. It's one of the better offenses we have in the league. But I hope today Blake leans heavily on his fastball.
Yeah.
Because, and he talked a little bit about it with us during his visit with us last week. I think he's discovering that when he can command the fastball, everything else, as he says, plays better. And it just seems too often in these road games, he gets away from the fastball. The breaking ball either isn't as sharp as he would like it, or he can't command it. and it has gotten them into some trouble. But I think it starts with being able to throw strike one with the fastball and then working off of that. We've seen that really in his last start, especially against the Dodgers. Pretty good offense.
Yeah.
And if he can do that, and listen, part of the byproduct of facing that Dodgers lineup, as really we saw it happen to every single pitcher, is that you're going to throw a lot of pitches. That's just how they operate. Even when you beat them, they're going to make you throw pitches. That's why I look at his 5 innings of work a little bit differently against them than I do against most teams. Because we saw the same thing with Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish was probably on his way to 7 against most teams, but they battled and made him throw enough pitches where in the 6th he was starting to fatigue a little bit. So I'm hopeful that's where we see from Blake Snell tonight.
Yeah, Randy Jones always used to tell me, Chris, what's the best pitch in baseball? And I'd always guess fastball or curveball, and he'd go, no, the best pitch in baseball is strike one. And there's nobody really that fits more than Blake Snell. Get that first pitch in for a strike and get ahead in the count and throw pitches off of that first pitch fastball. Now, of course, the counter to that is the Reds, I think, are a little bit more of a free-swinging team and probably, look, they scout just like, it's funny, the Padres do a bunch of scouting. So does the other team. They actually scout you. So they're going to be figuring, you know what, he's going to be trying to get first pitch fastball over the plate. Let's be ready. Let's be swinging. And the Reds have guys that can hit. But I still think if you're Blake Snell, you got to throw first pitch fastball for strike one. And if they get a base hit off it, fine. Come back with the next guy and get a first pitch fastball over the plate. Maybe he'll hit it at somebody, you get a double play. Some early outs would be good for Blake Snell. And, he's got to solve this, Tony. We talked about this. With the Nelson Lamet being very much iffy now the rest of the way, and I know that Jace Tingler put a very positive spin on it yesterday in an interview he did with the MLB Network radio people and said, we're hopeful that Nelson will be back before the All-Star break. I find that really difficult to imagine, but even if he did come back before the All-Star break, they're probably going to be easing him back into it a little bit, 3-4 innings here and there. So Dinelson Lamet right now, you can't count on him. We know Ryan Weathers, as much as you'd love to count on him, he's got an innings limit. So right now, the Padres have 2.5 pitchers in their starting rotation that they can count on. The 2 that they can count on, obviously, are Darvish and Joe Musgrove. The half is Chris Paddock, who has started to pitch better, but is coming off a rough outing his last time out. And then Blake Snell. And if they don't get Blake Snell going, as good as this Padre team is on paper, if they don't get Blake Snell going, I think it's going to be almost impossible for them to get anything but a wild card in the National League. This offense would have to go gangbusters in order to carry a starting pitching staff that only really has 2 or 3 guys. So, and, A.J. Preller's got to be busy right now. He's got to be looking around, I think, for another starting pitcher. But Blake Snell's got to do his part. He knows that. I'm not putting any added pressure on him. I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself. So, but I think this is a big start for him tonight. Based on everything he's gone through on the road, based on the fact that the Padres have won 9 out of 10 games, but have lost 9 of their last 10 games on the road, this game's kind of one of those games that sets you in a different direction. Either you lose another one on the road and you say, oh, here we go again, or you carry over the hot streak at home. And Blake Snell, home and road, has obviously been hot and cold too. So there's a lot on the line tonight. It's funny. You played 80 games in the season. This is the exact halfway point tonight. You get through this game, you'll be exactly halfway through the season. If you win it, you'd have 48 wins. You'd be on pace for 96. If you lose it, then you'd be on pace for 94. Nothing wrong with that. But I just think this is a key game one way or another for the team and especially for Blake Snell. So keep our eye on it tonight.
I think this is around the time where I think things start to harden a little bit. You start to cement who you are as a team, and that's why I don't think the Giants are going to go nowhere. And although the Dodgers did get the win last night, and Scraby, I assume this is that you saw this on your Instagram and Twitter.
Yes.
Who should Padre fans cheer for in the series between the Giants and Dodgers? Now, see, these kind of questions worry me about if they're a representation of our fan base, which I don't believe they are. It worries me because Who's in first place? I think that's the pretty simple answer.
This is a really easy question to answer right now.
It wasn't that easy.
It should be very easy because the Giants are 2.5 games in my mind, and everybody's mind.
In everybody's mind.
The Giants are 2.5 games ahead of the Dodgers right now. Of course, you want the Dodgers to knock them off right now, close the gap, and then you want to give the Padres an opportunity to close the gap as well.
Yes.
I mean, we're not playing for second place here.
I know that's the answer. All right,
but it's not that easy. That's the end of the discussion.
It's not that easy.
Get out of the discussion because the discussion's over.
It took me a long time to realize that this was the answer, but it took me many weaving paths through my brain to figure it out.
Yeah, well, for those of you that are tuning in to Gwynn and Chris for the very first time, because we're on at noon today and you're used to hearing the coach, and again, he's off this week, so we are filling in the afternoons. This is the kind of stuff that Tony Gwynn Jr. and I put up with all the time. Really obvious situations that Scraby tries to make difficult because of the crazy cross pathways that work electronically a little off balance in his mind. So
I know where you were going.
Did he just call me crazy?
I wasn't sure.
In a roundabout way? Did he just call me crazy?
The synapses don't always jive in Scraby's mind.
Same to you, Chris. Same to you.
I'm sure they don't. But in this one, I feel pretty confident in saying it's probably time to be rooting for the Dodgers and not the Giants. I mean, you've got to knock the Giants down. Plus, you got to get the Giants on that cold spell that I talked about. And if the Dodgers can sweep this series, that would give the Giants 4 games lost in a row and perhaps send them into a little bit of a spin. So, but right now the Padres have to. By the way, I looked around. The Padres are the first team in Major League Baseball to reach the midway point of the season. They are the only team that's played 80 games so far.
It makes sense when you look at the schedule. And how many
since
games
they haven't had an off day the entire season. I mean, Jesse had a great stat last week. I was driving home, I think, from softball, and he was running. He said that he was he goes, I'm very anal about the schedule. And I said to myself, Jesse, honestly, you're pretty anal about everything statistically. So the fact that the schedule is another one didn't surprise me. But he said he looked at it and he said the Dodgers didn't have a single stretch this year of anything more than 13 or 14 games in a row, whereas the Padres have already done that 3 times this year. They've had a 17 in a row, a 20 in a row, and a 14 in a row, or something along those lines. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but the schedule has not been equitable for the Padres and the Dodgers the first half of the season in terms of rest. Now, you got to believe the second half of the season it's going to even out some because the Dodgers still have to play 3 more games than the Padres have to play. So
right, and so it'll even itself out. I mean, Jesse been on this for a little bit. He made the point.
He's been on this for a little bit.
he made a point, and they're good points.
They are.
The fact that the Padres have, the fact that you just mentioned that the Padres have 3 city
road trips,
three city road trips with no off day on them, and the Dodgers only have 1, and they have an off day on it. But the Padres will have like 2 off days in a week coming up, like twice, I think, in the second half of the season. So it'll balance itself out. Certainly, the schedule has played, I think, somewhat of a factor. I don't know how big of a factor, but it's played somewhat of a factor in terms of how the Padres have played, because when they've been on those long stretches, they haven't been the same team as when they've had like off days mixed into those schedules. So,
I don't even think you need analytics to figure it out. I mean, the Padres have had their scuffles during the end of those long stretches of games. I mean, that's kind of when they've struggled. So when they play 20 games in a row, the last 6 or 7 of those games, they haven't played very well. And I think it's pretty obvious that hopefully without those stretches in the second half, they won't have any slumps. That's what they talked about in a newspaper article today going into the second half of the season, getting a little more rest, and hopefully that 13 out of 17 stretch where they lost those games, that's behind them now, and they won't have anything like that the second half of the season. If you are new to Gwynn and Chris, couple of regular features on the program today. We play Chris versus the Fans. We're going to put that in at 2 o'clock today. You'll have a chance to win a qualification for a trip to Las Vegas by playing trivia against me. Those familiar with the Gwen and Chris show, of course, know Chris versus the Fans, but there might be some of you who don't. But if you're a good trivia person, you want to be on at 2 o'clock, you can call in and you could qualify for a trip to Las Vegas. We have our Big Five coming up as well a little bit later on, Daily Gambit, and Annie Heilbrunn is going to join us today from the Bally Sports San Diego Network, talk some Padre baseball a little bit later on. So a lot to get done today. We are off and rolling. Hats off to the Clippers. I know you don't want to take your hat off, Tony, but you did get a haircut today, so you should
go
should
ahead,
show
playoff
your new
P. He was playoff
Paul
P last
George
night.
was outstanding last night. What a game he turned in. 41 points, a bunch of 13, 14 rebounds. And the Clippers, I mean, without Kawhi Leonard, showing a lot of guts here in this series as they climb back in.
Regardless of how I personally feel about the Clippers, I like to see guys answer the call the way Paul George has in this series. So he hasn't been perfect, but he's been really good. So I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and Reggie Jackson once again hit some monster shots last night. Every time they've won, he's come up with some big plays down the stretch for them, and he's become a second scorer there along with Paul George. And I don't know. It still seems unlikely that the Clippers could wind up in the NBA Finals without their best player, but who knows? I guess stranger things have happened. So we'll talk some NBA as the program rolls along. We'll kick around the City of Champions, which is Tampa, Florida, continuing to just roll along in all of the major sports. We'll talk about that. And a big breaking story at Wimbledon just came down a couple of minutes ago. Serena Williams had to retire from her match in the first round today. Looked like she pulled a hamstring, something with her right leg. She went back and got it wrapped.
She turned an ankle.
Oh, was that what it
awkwardly.
was? Was that what it was?
Like it.
Yeah, she got it wrapped. She was off the court for about 10 minutes, came back and absolutely could not move, and still played 3-4 points and actually won a couple of points on one leg, but finally collapsed to the court in too much pain and had to retire. So Serena Williams will have to wait yet again to try to set the all-time Grand Slam tennis championship record. All right, that's what's going on in sports, noon hour on this Tuesday. Thanks for being with us. I'm Chris Ello. That's Tony Gwynn Jr. It's Gwynn and Chris until 3 o'clock today. Coach Jonathan Quintera on vacation, so you get a little of our stuff for the next 3 hours on San Diego's #1 sports talk station. This is 97.3 The Fan.
.23 on the clock. Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matt Scraby. We're not all together. I'm here at Petco Park preparing for Reds-Padres, game 1 of the series. Padres expected to be dealing with some humidity, I hear, today. Huh, Scrape?
Oh, it's supposed to be heat index 101. My Cincinnati friends were like, hopefully your Padres can handle the heat. And I'm like, I'm sure they can. Just don't worry. Don't worry.
I'm sure everybody will be very happy once the sun actually goes down.
That is a brutal feeling. 95 degrees and 101 index. Like, thinking about it makes me want to throw up. Speaking of throwing up from yesterday.
We've been talking about that for 2 days now. It's all we seem to go to on this show right now.
It's true.
Gotta be careful.
I don't know how I feel about this. I guess it's a good thing, right? I mean, you get the two fan bases pulling for one of your guys, but I'm looking at I saw on Twitter today, the Blue Jays and the Padres have decided to do a combo on All-Star voting.
Yeah. Yeah, what is this all about? The
they got
Blue Jay fans are
Blue Jays have like
everybody to
8 guys they're
Fernando.
voting for compared to our 1.
Yeah.
That is true.
That's kind of irritating to me.
And we're voting for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to help them out.
Well, I guess we're
Not just him.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to vote for all their guys?
No. I draw the line at I will vote for Vlad Jr., but I will not vote for anyone else. As long as Blue Jays fans
Chris,
will vote for
they got a picture
Fernando.
of Fernando surrounded by Blue Jays.
Yeah, I see this now. Marcus Semien they want on the All-Star team. They want Teoscar Hernandez on the All-Star team, Randall Grichuk on the All-Star team, and Bo Bichette. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., all in exchange for a vote for Fernando Tatis Jr. You know, I find this to be a little bit unwelcome for myself.
What is wrong with you? This is great.
It's not great. Fernando Tatis Jr. doesn't need the Toronto Blue Jays fans' help. If the fans don't vote Fernando Tatis Jr. on the All-Star game on his own merit, then the fans are just, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, I don't really think that you need to make a deal with the Blue Jays to get Fernando Tatis Jr. on the All-Star team. He's one of the most popular players already in Major League Baseball. I think just about everybody who follows the game in any way, shape, or form is going to vote for him. And if you're going to vote for somebody else, I don't think the Blue Jays telling you to vote for Fernando is going to change your mind. So... And what do we need the Toronto fan base for? How big is the Toronto?
Why are you so upset about this?
Well, how big is the Toronto? How many fans do they have in Toronto for the Blue Jays? About 1,000?
I think what's happening here is that Fernando and Vlad Jr. are very good friends, and this is how it all came about. I don't have any problem voting for AL players. As long as, and you say that the fans are going to figure it out. The fans can't figure it out. They voted Chris Bryant as the best third baseman in Major League Baseball, and he doesn't even play third base.
Isn't Gavin Lux involved in the final? Like, are you kidding me?
He got to be a finalist, but Fernando's leading the shortstop category by a comfortable margin.
By the way, Chris is absolutely right. By the way, Chris is absolutely.
He's leading by a comfortable margin. Number one, number two. Toronto doesn't even have a team. I mean, you're basically getting fans in a city where there is no baseball to try to vote for your guy. The Toronto Blue Jays play in Buffalo right now. They played the beginning of the season in Florida. I don't think you should just vote for guys on your team because they're on your team. I honestly think everybody should try to at least do a little research on their ballot and vote for guys that are deserving. And if you're a Padre fan, it would bother me if you voted Will Myers into the starting lineup just because he's Will Myers, when Nick Castellanos is hitting .347 and doing everything he's doing for the Reds. I just think you owe it to yourself if you're going to fill out a ballot to try to do it semi-right. If it's a close call and you want to go for a Padre over another guy, then by all means do so. But please don't tell me that your first baseman of choice this year for the All-Star game is Eric Hosmer. I love Eric. I'm glad he's on our team, but he's probably not deserving of being the starting first baseman in the National League. So if you're a Padre fan, I don't think you just vote for him just because he's a Padre. I've never totally understood that. It's always kind of given me pause.
You know what's funny? Chris? When I was I remember going to the Qualcomm games. And back in the day, and like doing the old like punch ballot that they used to.
I love the punch ballot. Yeah,
and
it was fun.
It used to irritate the heck out of me when people used to pick all Padres. Like it just used to like, unless they were deserving. Unless they were deserving, right? I mean, the year Sheffield and McGriff were here, and the years Cammy and Finn. Okay, those were legitimate cast ballots right there. But you're right. I think ultimately, although listen. I think you're right, ultimately, about Fernando. Like he's like the second. He's one or two in the most popular players in the league right now. So I don't think he's going to really need a whole lot of help.
He's not going to need votes from 500
I won't
people
turn it down.
Canadians up there in Toronto.
Will
who
you
haven't seen
stop
a ball
taking
game
shots
this
at
year.
Canada?
Who's taking shots at Canada?
You keep saying those Canadians.
I just said it one time. Don't say that I keep saying something I only said one time.
Yeah, Scraby.
Come on now.
Why are you so angry?
Don't get me.
Why are you so angry?
Don't get me in trouble with my friends from the Great White North. I know more athletes from Canada than you will ever know in your entire life.
Okay.
I broadcast hockey for 15 years. I love every one of those guys from Canada, and they know it. So don't even try to get me into a fight with people from Canada.
You know, Chris,
all I'm saying
he's
is,
trying
Fernando,
to see you right now.
If you really want to do something helpful, get a deal going with the Blue Jays fans to vote in Jay Cronenworth.
It's
now,
too late.
He deserves the vote. He's a guy that needs the vote. But Fernando doesn't need the help of a few thousand Toronto fans. He's going to get in just fine.
I mean, Chris, why? I've known you for 3 plus years now.
He's
And
at
this
a few
is
thousand.
one of the strangest things that you've had a problem with.
Listen, I was the one who led off and said I don't know how I feel about this.
I know. I don't get you guys. They're just trying to
I'm
get
just
Fernando a
saying
starting
there's-
spot. When
there's
was the last
seven-
time a Padres
just saying.
started an All-Star game?
Tony's
1998
dad.
or
Tony's
99.
dad.
Yeah,
Tony's
wouldn't it be
dad.
great for Fernando Tatis
And
Jr.
he's going to.
He's
He's
going
going
that.
to. I
You
know
don't
that.
know that.
I do know that.
How
I
much
do.
you-
I'm
let's
very
put a- you wanna
confident.
put
I
a
don't want to put a
friendly
wager. I don't. Because I'm not willing to put my money where my mouth
confident
is.
that he's going to get in, whether or not the people in Toronto vote for him or not. And if he doesn't get in on his own merit, then the fans are stupid and they don't get to see him
all right,
start
yeah.
the All-Star
All
game.
right, all right.
Simple as that.
I'm just saying I didn't like the visual of 6 or 7 Blue Jays just surrounding the one.
Yeah,
Padre.
that's no good.
It just bothered me, the initial look of that.
It does look weird, and the Padres are doing it for Vlad as well. They're doing the same exact thing back.
Did they surround us with our guys?
No, I think they just posted the same picture. I have to go make sure and check. But
Well,
let
if
me
you're
go
a
see
Padre,
real quick.
if you're a Padre fan out there, just because the Blue Jays and the Padres are doing this little deal under the table or above board, whatever it is, are you going to go
It's the
out?
same
and,
picture. It's
Are
the
you
same
going to go
picture.
out and change your American League ballot and vote for all Blue Jays? I mean, really? Are you, as a San Diego Padre fan, going to go out and vote for all Blue Jays just because they're trying to rustle up some votes for Fernando?
I just can't
Are
believe.
you going? Are you going? Did you answer that
No,
question?
I didn't hear you. Can you repeat it, please?
No.
I was looking. I was doing show research and looking at the picture that the Padres tweeted, and it has all the Blue Jays on it. I just can't believe that.
Well,
wait,
does that mean that all of those guys are finalists in the American League?
I don't know.
It has to be.
I don't pay any attention
Oh my
to the American
gosh.
League. I don't pay any attention to the Blue Jays at all. None. Zero. Nil. Couldn't tell you a thing about them. Couldn't tell you the name of their home stadium because they don't even play in Toronto. So it doesn't mean a thing to me. Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to start the All-Star game on his own merit, whether the Blue Jay fans vote for him or not. I do not need to give a vote to Randall Grichuk just to get Fernando Tatis Jr. on the All-Star
you're missing
game.
the point here.
What is the point then?
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you've been yelling. Has he not been yelling the entire time, Tony?
He has.
All the entire discussion you've been yelling. So now I'm just rising
He's
up
matching
to
you.
try to match you.
Okay.
So please tell me what the point is that I'm missing.
You don't have to vote for all of the Blue Jays. You just need to vote, I would say, 1 for 1. If you really,
That
really
seems fair.
want, if you really, really want to make it fair, you vote for Vlad Jr. and they vote for Fernando. Who cares about the other guys? I don't care about any of those guys. I do love Vlad Jr. and I do love Fernando.
I don't know what Bichette's doing. He might be a worthy candidate.
No, he doesn't need to. If Jake Cronenworth can't get in, then Bo Bichette shouldn't get in.
Oh, see, now you're being a hater. Now you don't even want.
Now he's agreeing to a deal with the Blue Jays fans, but there are other options that have to be figured into this before he'll agree to it 100%.
We've started something. We've got phone calls. We've got tweets now. Now they. Let's see. Mailman Rob says that he agrees with you guys. I agree with Tony
course he
Jr.,
does.
Chris LSD. It kind of looks terrible that they're marketing one of ours and we're marketing 1 million of theirs. It's dumb. Just market Tatis 100 and that's it. People who deserve it belong on the All-Star and that's it. And then we have Artie Curry. I have a feeling Chris is the clapper to turn off his TV at night. I have a feeling that too.
Oh, because what? I'm 90 years old.
You said it.
No, you said it last week.
You did say that last.
Wow,
You totally
I
forgot.
did not know it cut that deep.
Vote for people that deserve to be on the All-Star team. It's as
gosh,
simple
you guys
as
are cracking me
that.
up.
You don't need these little deals to be made with every other team in baseball to get your guys on the All-Star team. And as far as Jay Cronenworth was concerned, the fans overlooked him. That was a mistake. But it'll be righted because the coaches and the players will get him in as an alternate.
I think they will.
So he'll end up making the All-Star team anyway. And about a month from now, nobody's going to care who made the All-Star team. The only thing you're going to care about is winning your division. And the
You know what you're
Padres
gonna
are going to
care
be doing
about?
that, and the Blue Jays aren't.
You're gonna care about that all MLB team because that's gonna be something that is
Now that is
worthy
a
of
legit
the whole
honor
year.
now.
Yeah,
that is a
yeah.
legit honor now.
Yeah.
All right. So
So I think we don't have time for the call.
No, we'll take the callers on the other side, but I'm going to go leave the room real quick. Tony's not here to buffer me.
We'll hear from
Hang
you
on a
guys.
second,
when we
hang on a
return.
second.
Oh, no! He's getting the bat!
No, I'm not getting the bat. I just want to turn off the lights.
Oh, it works! What the
Gwynn
heck?
and Chris.
That's awesome.
San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, welcome back to the program. 12:40 is the time. Pacific time. Tony and I keep telling each other it's Eastern time, so that's our time slot. But we're filling in for the coach, Sean Quintero, this week. Gwynn and Chris program at noon every day the rest of this week. Then we'll be back to our regular time slot next week from 3 to 7 p.m. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. You want to get in, you want to talk some Padres. You want to talk about this All-Star game and whether or not the Padres need to enlist the help of the Blue Jays fans to get Fernando Tatis Jr. into the game. Please give us a call on that, or what can be done to get Jay Cronenworth into this game, or what can be done to get Blake Snell turned around. He's got to do it starting tonight on the road. He brings a 10.36 road ERA into tonight's start at Cincinnati. Just a little update on the breaking news story from the beginning of the show. Serena Williams, the greatest female tennis player of all time. I don't think there's any argument about that, Tony. Still going for that record-tying 24th major title, but the 39-year-old Williams having to retire from her first-round match at Wimbledon today. Apparent right leg injury is what they're calling it. She was holding a 3-1 lead in the first set when she slipped on the court at center court, needed to take an injury timeout. She did come back, quickly lost the next two games, and just could not play through the pain. So she had to retire. So Williams' run is over. It's only the second time in her storied career that she has retired from a match at a major tournament. The other time was also at Wimbledon all the way back in 1998. Wow. It was raining, which it always does at Wimbledon, but they have the roof had been closed, but evidently not soon enough to keep the court from being very slippery. Apparently in an earlier match on today, Adrian Manarino, I'm sure I butchered that name, was playing against Roger Federer, a name I recognize, and Manarino was forced to retire as a result of a similar fall.
Oh, they're going to hear. We're going to hear more about this one.
Yeah, you're going to hear about this. Now, Federer was kind of lucky here. He was actually tied at 2 sets apiece. They were going to a fifth set, and that's when this guy had to retire because of injury. So Federer kind of gets a lucky break and gets to move on in the tournament. But you know, you've got the roof there. I mean, somebody read the weather report. I mean, don't open the roof. Especially at Wimbledon. I mean, at this time of year, it rains constantly there. That's why they finally put the roof on, maybe a decade or so ago. But anyway, you lose a couple of players today, including the great Serena Williams, because the court was not really properly ready for play. I mean, that's an injury that should have been avoided. So I definitely think they'll hear a little bit about that. All right, let's get to some phone calls here. Casey in El Cajon is going to be first up with Gwynn and Chris here in the noon hour today. Casey, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, well, good. How you doing, Chris? And
doing
Tony,
good, thanks. We're doing good, Casey.
Hey, following up on your guys' comments on that Blue Jays scenario, I was thinking along those lines, hey, maybe it's a fair trade. You can have all the fans vote for Guerrero, vote for Tatis, and then, if they can vote in, Cronenworth, maybe we can throw a vote their way for one of their guys, whether it's Simeon, whether it's Bichette, whoever, just to even it out.
Yeah, but I think Tony and actually Scraby, I hate to agree with Scraby on something, but I think it's too late for Cronenworth actually to get any fan votes because he's not a finalist at his position. So we can't really do a quid pro quo here with the Blue Jay fans because the only way Cronenworth, I believe, can get on the All-Star team now, correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, is with as a reserve as chosen by the coaches and players. So.
Players and commissioner, I believe so.
Right,
I think that is how the reserves are picked.
Yeah, the fans did an awful job there. Let's be honest. I said the fans did an awful job there by overlooking Cronenworth. But it's going to happen. I mean, you've got. I mean, this isn't. it's not a fair world in the voting. I mean, there's more people that live in Los Angeles than live in San Diego. The Dodgers are on television a lot more often than the Padres are. The Dodgers are a bigger deal than the Padres are. They won the World Series last year. And frankly, around baseball, more people know who Gavin Lux is than know who Jake Cronenworth is. I'm not
crazy to me.
Right, it's totally crazy. Anybody who follows baseball obviously knows that Jake Cronenworth has been having a far better season than Gavin Lux, but the voting didn't come out that way. And even though in this case it hurts our guy, I'm okay with it, Tony. It's not a perfect world in which we live in, so we don't need a perfect voting system. They try to make it as good as possible, but you know what? I like it that the fans are involved, even if they make a mistake from time to time, or even maybe more than time to time. It's still okay with me because I like that the fans are involved.
Yeah.
So
now I like it too. And you know what? The fans don't always get it wrong. They get it right a lot of times too.
Yes,
so,
they do.
They got it wrong in terms of who was the finalist in second base? I know Gavin Lux.
Adam Frazier is one of them, and he's having a really nice year.
He's having a good year
for the Pirates. I think he's leading the league in hits. Or he was at one time.
So technically, they haven't officially got it wrong yet.
Right.
Ozzie
Gavin
Albies,
Lux
too.
is not going to win. Ozzie Albies, the other guy.
Yeah.
See, now Ozzie Albies is not having as good a year as Cronenworth, but you can
Right.
make.
He's having a good year. He's not all around the way Jake is, though.
No,
but again, that speaks to what you were just talking about with the Dodgers. The Braves are a known commodity. Like, remember in the South for a long time, the Braves, they pretty much were the team for like states
the entire
all the way
region.
up all the way up to Texas. They were the choice of team for most people out that way. So that kind of plays into exactly what you're talking about with the Dodgers. Yeah. So it's going to be incumbent on players who have faced, and Padres. Lucky for the Padres, they've really hit all of the regions before. Like normally you might not get to the East Coast until the second half of the season. They've gone Midwest, they've gone East Coast to be in New York already. So that's the thing that Jake has going in his favor, is that they've played a lot of different teams outside of their division already.
Yeah,
as well.
And then look, Ozzie Albies, honestly, I mean, he's got 46 RBIs right now to Cronenworth's 26, and that's not Jake's fault. He's been batting in different places in the order, but he leads him by 20 RBIs. He's got him by 3 home runs. Cronenworth has the better batting average, 298 to 253. But let me just say this, in defense of Ozzie Albies, if tomorrow, well, it's a dangerous question to ask. I'm sitting in San Diego asking it. But if tomorrow the Atlanta Braves called the Padres and said, right now, forget how much money they're worth and forget their salaries, but we'll just give you Ozzie Albies, you give us Jake Cronenworth, would you consider it if you were a Padre fan? Ozzie Albies is a hell of a player.
Not right now, I would.
But you wouldn't do it anyway. Okay.
No, not right now.
You think Jake Cronenworth is better overall than Ozzie Albies?
I think it remains to be seen. Albies has got a couple years under his belt where he's proven that he's this guy.
Yes.
He's a commodity in terms of that, but I like what I've seen in the progression from last year to this year from Jake that makes me feel like he has a chance to be as good, if not better, than Albies.
But I think that having him as a finalist at second base in the National League isn't a terrible decision by the fans. But
it's not.
Having Gavin Lux ahead of Jake Cronenworth, that's not a good.
I think that's what stings the most.
That stings the most, especially since it's a Dodger. But look, Lux was in the minor leagues for a lot of the year. He's only played 25 games this year. Jake's played 68 games. It's a difference of 40 games, 45 games. Come on. Anyway. All right. Thanks for the phone call, Casey. Appreciate that. By the way, speaking of those little punch-out all-star ballots, when I was about 10 years old, a friend of ours knew somebody knew Vin Scully or something, and we got to go sit in the broadcast booth during a pregame show at Dodger Stadium. And, I mean, this was a big thrill, obviously. And we were sitting a row behind the broadcasters, and Vin Scully was up there, and he was interviewing Steve Yeager, who was the Dodger catcher from those days. Remember Steve Yeager?
Steve, you guys would also know Yeager as the bench coach in Major League. Or no, first base coach.
First
third
base coach in Major League, yeah. Steve Yeager. Yeah. He's also the guy that was the very first to invent the little flap that hung down from the mask and protected your throat. But anyway, Steve Yeager was sitting up there doing a live interview with Vin Scully or maybe somebody else. But anyway, we're sitting in the booth, me and my buddies, and while they're doing the interview, we have to be quiet, but we're filling out our all-star ballots because it was that time of year, and we're punching away. And, of course, on my ballot, I get to catcher National League, and I'm not thinking very clearly. So I punch Johnny Bench. Come on, you got to go with Johnny Bench. He's always the catcher in the National League. Steve Yeager leans over while he's doing the interview and says, kind of gives me the hey, let me see that real quick. And I'm like, who, me? You're talking to me? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that ballot. Let me see that ballot. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I didn't even think about it. I'm like, yeah, you want to see my ballot? Sure, go ahead. Steve Yeager's like, come on! I'm sitting right here, and you still vote for Johnny Bench. And I was so embarrassed. A little kid, I was really embarrassed. And he was being very nice about it, of course. But that was the days when you punched out your ballot. But see, I was an honest guy. I didn't just vote for a Dodger, even though I was sitting with the guy practically. I still voted for Johnny Bench because it was Johnny Bench.
That's. I mean, you get to see these guys come in to town and play, and you realize like how good they are. It's hard to just put down your home team guys if they're not deserving of it.
I think it is, but a lot of people don't think it is. Let's go to CJ in Imperial Beach. Welcome to the show, CJ. What's going on?
And not much. I look at this whole campaign, and I think it's really more Fernando trying to get Vlad Jr. over the finish line. Because what are there? Like you mentioned, 15 Toronto Blue Jays fans this year running around because of where they're playing at. And I think it's more of getting San Diego involved to get Vlad Jr. there. But if we're going to be ridiculous in marketing an all-star ballot, if you're a San Diego Padres fan, I'm voting for the guy that I want to be on this team at the trade deadline. And because you know that these teams are watching some of these voting, and if we're going to be totally ridiculous in the marketing and everything, go out and vote for the guy that I want, because you know those statistics are getting shared within Major League Baseball circles as to who's being marketable and who's not, based off of where they're coming from and the questions that they ask before the ballot. So go out and vote heavily for Nick Castellanos. Make sure the Padres know that, hey, San Diego wants that guy on this team, and put him in the middle of this lineup come 3 weeks from now.
So you want Nick Castellanos. Well, wouldn't that be wonderful?
I would take if they could get Nick Castellanos. I think this is they jump the Dodgers and they jump the rest of the National League. You put him in the middle of that lineup, batting fourth or fifth, whatever you have. You're talking, you may end up with a $43 million platoon at first base, but at the same point, you're looking at one heck of a lineup. And I would take Castellanos over Joey Gallo any day. I just don't know how you really, I guess, lack of a better term, because they're humans, and I don't want to sound like it's, a bad thing, but how do you value Nick Castellanos when he can opt out? The Reds are going to value him with 2 or 3 more years left on the contract. And if you're Preller, you got to view him as a guy who's going to opt out, and he's nothing more than a rental, and you're not going to give up anything major for him. So it's kind of, you're kind of caught in no man's land on how do you value the guy.
Yeah, I think you're caught a little bit in no man's land here, CJ, to be honest with you, because I don't see any way that the Reds are going to part with Nick Castellanos this season. I mean, they're sitting a game over 500 right now. They are 2 or 3 games back of the Cubs for second place in the National League Central. Why would they want to part with the leading hitter and slugger in the league? I mean, that's the only problem I have. I know that the Padre fans would love to have Nick Castellanos. I'd love to have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. too, and I'd love to have Shohei. I mean, you'd love to have a bunch of guys, but it's got to be a reasonable guy to get. And I know Castellanos' name keeps coming up, but Tony, doesn't it just keep coming up because he's so good, and the Padre fans would love to have him, but.
I think it partly is because the Padres just swept the Reds, so I think people think the Reds are like trash.
They're out of it.
Probably
they're giving up the season. Yeah,
they're still in it, and the way we've seen the Central kind of rotate around, we've seen the Cardinals up there. Now they're in 4th. We've seen the Cubs up there. Now they're in second. We've seen Milwaukee. So it's a revolving door at the top of the National League Central, and I would guess the Reds don't believe they're completely out of it. And,
I don't think they are.
And it may not be clear to anybody where the Reds are for another couple of weeks. So we'll see. Certainly Nick Castellanos is a piece that not only the Padres would want, but I'm certainly in a market where it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of sellers at this point. There's going to be a lot of buyers, and that may make it even more difficult to get a guy like that.
Yeah, time for our Grand Slam giveaway code word. This hour's code word is victory. Text victory to 72881 for your chance to win $1,000 in our national cash contest. Message and data rates apply. Don't drive and text. Tune in 55 past the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. for code words in the Grand Slam giveaway powered by BetQL. Let BetQL's proven data and analytics help you become a better.